All right. Hello, everybody. I think you can all hear me okay. Can I get thumbs up or down if not hearing me okay? That's good. Perfect. Thank you very much. So it's 2. We'll start the show. Thanks for coming. My name is Matej Malovrh. You'll have trouble pronouncing the last name, I believe. I run Adriatic Moto tours from Slovenia, and today we gathered here to see a few photos and hear some facts and stories from the Balkan region. What is the Balkan region? You'll hear about that soon enough. If anybody has any questions while I talk, you can raise your hand and ask, absolutely no problem. We have tons of time. This is a premium presentation today. This is the first time MOA is doing it, and it's a long one. They are giving me an hour and a half. I will not make this presentation an hour and a half long. But yeah, plenty of time, so plenty of time for discussions, questions, anytime you want to do it. And then, of course, at the end, you'll have the chance to ask whatever you want. So let's go. Let's start with how many of you here know what the word Balkan means. Balkans, and it's not Baltics. That's 2 very different regions in Europe, and they're very often mixed. Baltics is up north, the Baltic countries, so Litva, Latvia, Estonia mostly, around the Baltic Sea. And the Balkans is further south. You will see where that is. Okay. I won't stay here long, just a couple of photos so that you know who you're talking to. Matej, I started riding around, 13, 14 years old, just to help my brother deliver newspapers with the moped, because I didn't want to do it on bicycles anymore. And then, things went its way, and today we run a motorcycle touring company. Thanks, brother. Just to have a quick idea of what we're going to do, I'll tell you just a few words about the agency. We'll go through tour itineraries that kind of belong to the Balkan region, and photos, fun facts, and then towards the end, how we do this. Because we have a lot of people coming to the booth. The booth, if you come talk to us later, is right into the main vendor hall, and we're on the left, immediately on the left. And while I'm at that, of course, I have to explain why I gave you these leaflets. Because each of you that came to the presentation can put his name down, an email, and we'll have a drawing tomorrow. It says here at 2, and we'll pick 2 winners, one from today's presentation and one from tomorrow's presentation. Tomorrow is a talk on Mediterranean Europe, riding Mediterranean Europe, and then you have a chance to win a $500 voucher for any of our tours or rentals. So do that later after the presentation. You can drop it off in here, the coupon, the small part only. I have a couple of pens, but you can bring those later at the booth. So, let's see. I started the company in 2003, just a really quick history. So 21 years ago, with a couple of bikes, F650 GS, which was back then very popular, small, light bike. Unfortunately, they don't make bikes that light no more with Beamers, mostly. I wish they did. And then the first 1200 GS. A lot of you will remember that bike. That was the first year when it came out, 2004. The first year we had 3 people on a tour. And they were all from Florida. We loved Hank and Larry. Still remember them with great memories. And then things developed, more people came and more people talked about it, and we ended up before COVID with about 130, 140 bikes in the fleet, mostly BMWs, but not just BMWs. We'll go there later. And survived COVID without too many issues and are happy and back into touring again after COVID. So that's how it all went. Just a couple of ideas why anybody would consider riding. There's a bunch of companies out here. Most of us do great tours, I think. So absolutely, if you ever get a chance, if you haven't done anything like that yet, don't wait another year, don't wait too long. Just go for it. You know, anybody pretty much here, you will see different parts of Europe, different parts of the world, but do give yourself a chance if you haven't done it yet. Try it out. Doing these guided tours is just a phenomenal way to see the world. Combine it with a cruise if your lady wants something like that. Okay, a lot of guys do that, so that's great. But why come on our tour? We try to give you the best possible local experience food-wise. We'll take you to restaurants, to local restaurants, not eat in hotels. Try to pick the nicest boutique small hotels, no chain hotels if possible. Routes, we'll pick the best routes for you, of course. The ride roads less traveled is what we advertise, and that's what we go for. And very often, or most of the time, we manage to do that really well. The areas that we ride, we'll see that on the next slide, are mostly around Central Europe and Eastern Europe and a little bit towards the west. But phenomenal, beautiful areas to ride, very scenic, extremely diverse, probably kind of new or different for our American guests or from around the world, but excellent places to go. It says they're easy to follow or do on your own. You get a GPS with routes and corner marking system and booklet. You can ride on your own or with your fellow riders, or follow the guide on the tour, whichever you prefer. Bikes, we have basically the whole range of BMW bikes, almost all the models apart from the big GT. We kind of don't think that's the best bike to tour the roads that we take, okay? Because we don't go on highways almost ever, so we don't get that bike. And yeah, 20 years of experience, and I think we learned our business very well. So let's see where we ride on our tours. Just a quick idea for you to understand. So Adriatic Moto Tours is based out of Slovenia, which is this little country here in the middle of Central Europe. We're bordering Croatia, Austria, and Italy, a little bit of Hungary also. Is this little chicken-shaped country. If you look at the map, you will totally recognize, and those that have been on our tours in the past years have gotten the chicken t-shirt, we call it, because back in the days, in 2004 when I started the company, there were a whole lot of people that were afraid of coming on a tour, and a friend of mine came up with the slogan, "Don't be a chicken, ride Slovenia." Okay, because people were afraid for obvious reason because in early 90s in the Balkans, we'll talk about that, the war was raging, obviously. The whole of Yugoslavia was splitting up. That started in 1990, took 4 or 5 years to finish. But then 10 years later, when we started doing motorcycle tours, a lot of people were still afraid that they'll get shot, you know, driving through ex-Yugoslavia, but never happened. Today, I think most of the people have forgotten about the war, so that's very good. So we started riding tours mostly towards the east. At first, actually, I thought we'll be just touring Slovenia first, which is this small country the size of New Jersey. That's why I called the company Slovenia Moto Tours first. But then after a couple of years, I realized that'll be a little bit too small for a touring company. And then with years, we spread north into the Central Europe, Czech Republic. We went mostly east and into the Balkans. And Balkans, for me to explain now, is this region. It's also called Balkans Peninsula. Balkans in Turkish means mountains. So back in the days, the Ottomans from, what's today Turkey and Istanbul, they came up with this word and named this region like that. So that's why it's called Balkans, for you to know why we have that name. So we kind of spread the tours throughout Yugoslavia, into Greece, Romania here, Bulgaria, further north, started covering the Alps, Italy, and then French Alps here, and Provence mostly. And of course the islands, Sardinia, Corsica, Sicily, all great stuff. But today, we'll concentrate on this area, on the Balkans. Tomorrow at 11, there's another presentation. We'll talk about Mediterranean Europe, okay, this stuff. Beautiful Balkans adventure is one of our oldest tours. This is back from 2005 or 6. We polished this tour as much as we could. Definitely our signature tour, still extremely popular tour, and without a doubt, one of the most diverse tours that you could do in our part of Europe, if not the whole of Europe. Why would that be the case? Because on this tour, which is 15 days long and starts in Ljubljana in Slovenia, you cover 4 different countries, which used to be 4 republics of ex-Yugoslavia, which, as I mentioned, fell apart in early 90s. So we have Slovenia here. You can recognize the shape of a chicken, although the head is not on the picture. And then Croatia here. See, Croatia has most of Adriatic coastline belongs to Croatia. Slovenia has this little piece. This is about 20 miles. Croatia probably has 1,200 miles of it. And then Montenegro down here, Bosnia and Herzegovina in between. So these 4 countries, these 4 regions with 4 different nations and 3 different religions make an amazing diversity as far as food goes. Then, religions also, architecture, scenery, everything. So beautiful diversity in just 2 weeks. Starts inland and then travels back towards Slovenia on the coast. Plitvice National Park. We'll go kind of not quite day by day through the tour for you to get a good idea of what it's like. Sarajevo is a rest day. These R's mean a rest day, where most of the time we don't go riding, but then if you want, of course, you can do that too. And then these are one-night stops, you can see. This is all big mountains through Bosnia and into Montenegro. The highest mountains we reach on this tour are in Montenegro, and then we hit Montenegrin coast, and we continue up Croatian coast through Dubrovnik. It's really Dubrovnik that it's called in Croatian or Slovenian, but you call it Dubrovnik. And through Hvar and Zadar, Poreč, all beautiful Croatian. Croatian coast, obviously, has become extremely popular in the past 10, 15 years. Maybe a little bit too popular. Also with boating, for sailboats. This is these days maybe one of the most popular sailboating place in Europe. Because of so many islands. Croatia has 60 inhabited islands, but over 1,000 small islands and reefs, and that makes it really good place for sailing because it's not exposed to strong winds most of the time. So that's a beautiful Balkans adventure. I think our main tour as far as Balkan goes. This is a slightly shorter version of tour, which we still very successfully run every year, only one a year. You will see it's almost the same itinerary, but more rest days. A lot of people, especially those that come from a long way, Australians are like that most of the time. They really like their rest days, or they like long tours, because if they come from Australia, they think, hey, we've spent 24 hours on the airplane at least, and we want to stay as long as possible. Okay, we'll do that. And this works out great with the rest days. Then, and this is the shorter version. I call it usually for people that still go to work, and you guys, while you're at work, you don't get too much vacation, I hear, which is unfortunate. But then a tour like that is perfect because this is a 9-day tour, 7 days on the bike, plus the arrival and the departure day. So only one rest day on this tour. This is Dubrovnik. We call it Adriatic Riviera Tour. People will ask, what's the mileage on these tours? I can give you the answer already. Typically between 150 and 200 miles in a day. And then people that come to this rally from all over the States, they'll say, but that we do that before breakfast. And I go, yep, I believe that. But, because I took some of those roads on the way here, but then you can't quite do that in most of Europe unless you start at 2 a.m. Then you can do it before breakfast because the roads are extremely twisty, often narrow, so it takes a lot more time for you to navigate this. But beautiful riding all the way. Okay, so I'll quickly guide you through the tour. This is Ljubljana. Ljubljana gained the title of the Green Capital of Europe. Ljubljana, that's the capital of Slovenia, that's where I'm from. Only 300,000 people, but beautiful old town. In between the old town you see here on the right is kind of stuck between the river, Ljubljanica River, and the castle. And then of course there's more town around it. This is where a lot of our tours start, and this is where our headquarters is. We only have one headquarters basically with bikes for other tours around Europe, and there's many places where we start and finish tours. We take the bikes there in the van in a trailer. So that's how it works. Also for maybe a couple of tours that we will talk about here. So not everything starts off out of Ljubljana, because that would be way too far for you to travel, okay, to different destinations. But this one does, and Ljubljana, you will absolutely love it. The next big city that we moved to, a couple of days later on this beautiful Balkans adventure is, anybody has a clue where this is? Sarajevo, yeah. Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia and Herzegovina, right? Sarajevo is probably the most oriental city in continental Europe, not counting Istanbul, and a massive mix of religions, cultures, food, people throughout centuries, everybody from all over, they moved to Sarajevo, and this still remains today. It's predominantly, we would call it Bosnian city, meaning a Muslim city, but also Croatians, Serbs, Orthodox Christians, Roman Catholics, Muslim, Jewish, everything mixes really nicely in Sarajevo. But then, of course, in the 1990s, not everybody thought like that. That's why Sarajevo was under siege for almost 3 years. And that was one of the worst places to be in the war. You will hear a lot about that if you ever come to Sarajevo, or if you end up doing one of these tours. We also take you to a tunnel. I don't know if, not very likely you'll know that, but the entire town of Sarajevo, which was back then 500,000 people, was connected. The only connection to the outside world for, say, a couple of years was a tunnel about this big, which ran under the airport. The airport was under the, yep.
NATO did a lot of bombing in Sarajevo. Do you remember that?
I mean, they didn't bomb Sarajevo, probably. Probably maybe the surrounding areas, because Sarajevo was under siege, kind of Serbian siege. Kosovo is where they did bombing. You're probably mixing that with Kosovo. I don't think NATO did, you're totally right. I don't think NATO did any bombing anywhere in Bosnia, but they definitely did it years after all this war was finished. Kosovo became a problem because Kosovo sought independence from Serbia. Maybe I'll show it on a map later where that is. Yeah, I will, because we ride through Kosovo. And yes, NATO bombed Belgrade, actually, and Serbia, which stopped the war pretty much immediately. So Sarajevo, beautiful place. Interestingly, in late 19th century, Austro-Hungarian Empire took over Sarajevo, and the capital of that empire was Vienna and Budapest, and they were starting to introduce electric trams and electric lighting, the street lighting, and because they didn't want to risk in Vienna, because electricity was kind of funky back then to play with, Sarajevo was the first city in Europe to have electric tram, and the second in the world to have electric tram. Which was the first? The first city in the world to have electric tram. This country. Nope. San Francisco. San Francisco. Sorry? Yeah. And then the first city in Europe also to have electric lighting. That was very interesting when London still used gas. And it turned out okay, of course. Vienna introduced it a few years later. So Sarajevo, from where we moved to Mostar, Most means a bridge. Therefore, Mostar is the name of the town. Neretva River underneath, the biggest river in Bosnia. You will see in the summer guys diving off the bridge, and then they have a competition every year also, and it's really funny for us when we get there and they're waiting up at the top of the bridge, which is about 25 meters tall times 3, maybe 80 feet, and they wait for tourists to give them some money, and I think when they collect, I think about 20 euros they need, and then they dive off the bridge. Very impressive. When you're standing up, most of us don't want to do it for $20. But beautiful town, Muslim basically influenced mostly, although half the town Croatian, half the town Bosnian. This mixes all throughout Bosnia and Herzegovina. These cultures and religions mix. Very interesting, and food in particular. So another photo you can see, bridge in the back. This bridge was actually completely destroyed in 1993 by Croatian tanks, and then later rebuilt by Turkish company, which was very interesting because the Turks built this bridge 500 years ago, and then the Turks rebuilt the bridge, mostly with the original stone that all fell into the river, and they rebuilt it, and it's just as beautiful today. Another little example of a little small village on the Adriatic Sea. This is Sveti Stefan, we call it, which means Saint Stephen. It used to be a small fishing village on a small little island in the Adriatic in Montenegro until the Yugoslav socialist government came and they said, oh, we need a fancy hotel for the politicians and the fancy probably politicians from Russia, I guess, back then, or the Western countries, and they built a hotel out of this. Okay, they just kicked all the fishermen out, and this still today is one of the fanciest hotels on the Adriatic. And this is Dubrovnik, or Dubrovnik. Amazing place with the wall, stone wall all around it. We spend a couple of days here. Beautiful place. Take a local guide around the city. This city has existed for more than 1,000 years, and very interestingly, was the first state in the world to banish slavery back in early 1400s, and was also the first state to recognize American independency from British. Okay, so I guess when you declare independency in the world these days, or back in the days, not everybody agrees that you're independent. But Dubrovnik obviously agreed that you guys become independent from British. So bravo, Dubrovnik. Dubrovnik back then was its own state. Now it belongs to Croatia, of course. Extremely powerful and trading on the sea, competing with Venice most of the time, okay? Another shot from Dubrovnik. This is the old port and a cruise ship. A lot of people come to Dubrovnik on cruise ships. Hopefully when we're there, not too many, because they can overrun the city sometimes. Like they do. Hvar town, another beautiful place, heavily influenced by Venetians, especially the architecture. That's on Hvar Island, Hvar town. This is very common in Croatia. You will see if you ever go island hopping in Croatia, that the main, I would say it goes for half the islands in Croatia. The main town or the capital town of the island is called the same as the island itself. Okay, so Hvar is a good example, Brač, Vis, a bunch of them. We stay a couple of nights here and have a rest day. Some guys actually rent and go out around these islands. Really beautiful place. And then we take a ferry back. This is Rovinj up north on Eastern Peninsula. Another place that we visit on the tour. But then the first night out of Ljubljana, if you remember the map, going from Slovenia to Croatia, is Plitvice National Park. This is a major highlight with 16 lakes all connected together with these waterfalls, and we spend an afternoon hiking the park, national park. Absolute major highlight of Croatia, if you're able to walk for a couple of hours.
Yeah. You know what the hot setup there is? Show up at the end at 7 o'clock when they open the gates and walk back to the beginning, and there's nobody there.
You mean in the morning?
In the morning, yeah. When they open the gate, we go to the end, because you know everybody goes up here and walks down, right?
Yeah.
You walk up.
Of course, this park does get very crowded in the season, obviously. Luckily, we ride a couple of 100 kilometers, say 130 miles before we get here, and we get here in the afternoon where most of the crowds are gone, and then we have 3-4 hours in the afternoon to hike the park. Absolutely gorgeous place to see. Just another photo of, see, this is these wooden pathways that we walk around the waterfalls. Beautiful. You can't go for a swim, no, but you can drink the water. And just a few photos from this tour of what the roads looks like. From these long sweepers which you see here. This is in Bosnia, no traffic to be seen anywhere, to very tight hairpins, which we do in Montenegro. Maybe I have a photo. This is all through Bosnia. So very much the roads less traveled. Typically we try to be at the hotel between 3 and 4 p.m. We don't want to be at the hotel too late for you to get a chance to see the place, see the city and enjoy the hotel. This is Durmitor National Park, absolutely one of my favorites in Bosnia. This is. You can see this is very dry, everything here. My preference always and suggestion for people is to come in the spring rather than the fall. Maybe you have a slightly bigger chance of rain, but on the other hand, everything is totally green and the wildflowers are out and it's just gorgeous to ride these places. May, June, this would be as green as green gets. Okay, Durmitor National Park. Remember this, because if you're ever in that area, it's absolutely not something you could possibly miss. This is Montenegro, right? You can even play basketball with your helmet on this road. or see sheep all over and shepherds, and they'll offer their cheese and stuff. This is such a cool place. And this is the ride into Kotor Bay. Kotor, you see on the left, Kotor town with Kotor Bay is the biggest fjord in Southern Europe, or let's call it in Mediterranean. And this is the road which you see with around 20 hairpins Normally we're coming down. This must have been a custom tour. We were riding up. But phenomenal scenery and views from the top down. So Montenegro, and then another perfect example of the road. This is Adriatic coastal road, one of the nicest coastal roads in Europe. So back in the socialist times, the army, with the help of youth, built this road from Albanian border down, way down in the south, up to Slovenia, which was altogether probably about 800 miles long. Of course, not the entire thing is as beautiful as this, because a lot of it is now villages and towns, but built in the 60s and 70s, this road just is absolutely phenomenal. We take this pretty much all the way on the way back to Slovenia, and then on the way see cities like Primošten, like you see here on the left. Amazing, amazing places. And Moto, this is on the last riding day before we come to Ljubljana, and Tuscan-like scenery. Super, super nice. And then a couple of shots of local specialties. This is coffee, obviously, the Turkish coffee, which is made in these copper pots. And it turns out people most of the time just try it one time, because you're not so much used to coffee being so strong and then having not necessarily sweet. You put sugar in yourself, and this is a Turkish delight that comes with it. But the problem, funny, I don't understand, people have is the coffee grounds that are stuck in between your teeth when you're finished drinking this, okay? Because coffee that you're drinking is probably from here to here, and the coffee grounds are from here to here. Okay, so you have to be a little bit careful when you drink this, okay? But then you have a shot of this, and this is probably worth about a gallon of the coffee you guys drink here, okay? Which is kind of diluted, I feel, often. So, Turkish coffee, have to try it. Burek. Burek is a pastry, which some of you may know. They'll put spinach inside, or cheese, or meat. Absolutely have to try this. Perfect lunch it makes, because it's quick, and then yogurt goes well with it. This is one of our dinners. This is probably, of all our tours, the most memorable dinner that we do. We go to Mate's place. Mate, same name as like mine, Matej, but Croatian version of it. And he puts just fish on the grill, except if somebody really doesn't want to eat fish, then he'll get you a steak or something like that. But this is one of the best dinners. I think I have another photo later on. This is great. And then, of course, on rest days, you can go on the Tara River, Tara River Canyon, which is one of the biggest canyons in the world. This is again in Montenegro, close to Durmitor National Park, which I mentioned earlier. You can go whitewater rafting, because on the longer version of the Balkan tour, we have a rest day up there, okay? Great. And then on the way to the dinner. Good fun. So that was beautiful Balkans adventure. Again, you'll remember we've been running it for many, many years. A few years later, we wanted to go further east and came up with intriguing Southeast Europe, I call, and I think for a lot of people still coming on this tour, it is quite intriguing because, and I love, further east we go, more I love it, because it's more unpredictable, more adventurous, things happen that you don't necessarily expect, and great challenge for the guide and everybody on the tour. So this tour, see, we earlier talked about touring this area, this part of ex-Yugoslavia. Now we're moving further east to the most eastern part of ex-Yugoslavia, but now Serbia, this country here, with the capital of Belgrade. Belgrade was also the capital of Yugoslavia, you may remember. The biggest city in the area, 2 million people only. I mean, only for your standards, very big for ours. Serbia, and then we go through Bulgaria, we go to Sofia, the rest day there. Macedonia, a few days. And then we do the whole of Albania and back through Kosovo one night, a little bit of Montenegro and back into Belgrade.
How many days?
This one, somebody deleted the name. Intriguing, Southeast Europe, 15 days altogether, meaning 13 days plus the arrival and departure day. I won't make this tour as long as I did the first one, but this is one of the major highlights on the tour. I showed it in Montenegro. This is Ohrid Lake. This is a major, major highlight in Macedonia. If you ask any Macedonians where to go in Macedonia, they'll say Ohrid. And I said, okay, I've been to Ohrid. Where should I go next? And they say Ohrid. Because this is just such a cool place. It's one of the this is the oldest lake, not one of the oldest, but the oldest lake in Europe, 1.4 million years old, tectonic. So this has been there for a long time. We have a rest day here, and Ohrid town has 365 churches. This is just one of them. So one for each day of the year. A lot of churches. And this is Orthodox Church. If you recognize this by the shape, this is a very typical Christian Orthodox church. Who is Christian Orthodox? The biggest country in the world, Christian Orthodox? Any idea? Russia, yeah, of course. And then Bulgaria, parts of Ukraine, of course. A lot of ex-Soviet Union countries would be Orthodox. But in the rest of Europe, Bulgaria, Serbia, very strongly, for sure. Not massively different from Roman Catholic, but different enough to cause some trouble throughout the centuries. But definitely not the reason to start a war back in the early 90s, although many times it's mentioned as a reason for the war. Absolutely not true, okay? So, Orthodox, Ohrid, Macedonia, beautiful place. Macedonians have an interesting story, I don't know if you're aware, with the Greeks, because one of the ancient Greek regions or states was called Macedonia. And when Macedonia became an independent country in the mid-90s, and this was just a republic, a part of ex-Yugoslavia, Macedonia wanted to call itself Republic of Macedonia. And the Greeks absolutely refused to accept that. And because Greeks are a part of the European Union from the early stages, and Macedonians are not, still to this day, of course, Greeks had a much stronger vote, and Macedonia could never name itself Macedonia, and then for 20 years they were called Former Yugoslavian Republic of Macedonia. Greeks kind of agreed to that. This was really funny. Firom, okay, we call it, if you read the first letters. Only maybe a couple of years ago, Macedonia actually was is now recognized as Northern Macedonia. This is its official name these days. But Greeks are still not okay with that. Just a few sites, again, for you to see. This is a Greek-Roman ruin of Butrint in the south of Albania on Greek border. Great place to see. We'll go see, of course, these places along the way, always when we get the chance, and we do get the chance if something's close by, spend a couple of hours seeing places like this. Guides will tell you all about it. This is one of the places where we stay overnight. It's a winery. Macedonia is a massive wine producer. A lot of vineyards there. This is a winery. We stay there overnight. We'll do wine tasting up here in this tower. Everybody seems to like that a lot. A little bit of food. This is appetizers in Bulgaria. Okay, just the appetizers. This is in Sofia, dinner there. And of course, local guys in Albania spending the day working hard, playing dominoes. You will see these guys doing this for the whole day, and they'll just talk. They'll talk nonsense in politics most of the time. And dressed up, yeah, that's very interesting. And this was not Sunday, or they're like that every day. It is really, really fun. And then this I find very interesting. You will see still people working on fields, you know, like that, no big machinery. This is Romania, and I think later on I have another photo from Romania, because they have these horse-driven carts which are registered. They have license plates in Romania for carts. That's pretty cool. And then some riding. This must be pretty old. This is an old 750, the first two-cylinder 750. This is Ohrid Lake down below, and Gramos Mountains. This is crossing Albania. Beautiful area. This is back in the days when we still used the Triumphs, because we couldn't get enough GSs, but they didn't turn out to be the best option for us. So don't have those anymore. Yeah, this is quite common in the Balkans. You'll run into a situation like this. And this is Adriatic coastal road in Albania. Even less traffic, even less people, less cities. Gorgeous, gorgeous ride. This is also Albanian coastline. Interesting, down in Albania and very often in Greece, they have these sandy beaches, which are extremely uncommon in Croatia. Croatia, most of the beaches are not really beaches because it's just rock, limestone. They have short stretches of sand in between, but the rock makes water really clear. So very beautiful. Albania. Okay, can anybody name the guy that could be in charge of building 750,000 bunkers around Albania soon after the Second World War? Enver Hoxha, yes, not Tito. Tito had absolutely nothing to do with Albania. This is Albania. Enver Hoxha was the president for, I guess, a couple of decades in Albania, and he was absolutely paranoid that somebody will invade Greeks, Yugoslavians, Bulgarians, Macedonians, whoever. Nobody ever invaded, but they built 750 bunkers like this, which Albanians today, interestingly, are kind of moving away, as if maybe they look a little strange in a country that's been, in peace for the last 100 years or so. But we found this very interesting.
Well, the Albanians are primarily Islamic, right?
Albanians are primarily Islamic, if they are anything at all. You will mostly see mosques in Albania, but religion was very much banned in the socialist era. Albania was also the most closed country in Europe. There was literally for decades no in and out. And most of Albanians, 99% probably of Albanians, didn't have driver's licenses or cars up until basically in early 90s, the Eastern European countries kind of freed themselves. Okay?
Albania is where old Mercedes and Audis go to die.
Exactly. Albania is the
people with tracksuits.
Albania is the country with the largest number of Mercedes cars per capita, okay, per 1,000 people. If you don't have a Mercedes in Albania, you're almost really nobody. It could be easily 30-year-old, stolen in Germany 30 years ago, but as long as it's a Mercedes, okay, very important. A new Audi is not worth half as much as 20-year-old Mercedes. Really interesting country, like very different from anything, Albania. Support vehicle. Does anybody recognize, or you wouldn't ever recognize this moped, but you had mopeds made in Slovenia back in US? Thomas, who said that? You cannot answer questions. He's Croatian. He knows everything. But yes, Slovenia made a Tomos moped. I saw one in Washington, D.C. I couldn't believe it. This was on my first trip back in '97. Red, I still have a photo of it.
There's quite an active Tomos Facebook group. Very, very active.
Really? In US?
Great little bikes.
Yes, mopeds, 50cc mostly mopeds. Automatic was the most automatic, we call it. Two gears. This one had 4 gears. And forced, how do you call that? There was a fan here that cooled the engine. You could go to any mountain with this and it wouldn't ever overheat. This was the bike I learned to ride motorcycles. Not this exact bike, but the same bike, okay? Because it was the best for delivering newspapers. Okay, a little bit more culture. Back to Bulgaria. This is Rila Monastery. This is probably the most beautiful monastery, Orthodox monastery in the entire Eastern Europe. Yeah, we spent a couple of hours here. And this is the capital of Albania, which is Tirana. Hey, quiet. Quiet in the 5th row. Albania with the Albanian flag, red and an eagle. Skanderbeg, this is a big leader and a general that freed Albanians from Turkish, that was really Ottoman rule and empire. And then you can see, yes, Muslim mosque here in Albania, in Tirana. So this was intriguing Southeast Europe tour, 2 weeks. And then further east, we moved a few years later, Romania to Istanbul adventure. This obviously is not Romania, this is Istanbul. And you can see here the Blue Mosque and the Bosporus Straits, and then a cruise ship. If I don't know how many cruise ships come to Istanbul, we don't care because the city is so big, we don't see any. In Dubrovnik they make a big difference, but in Istanbul they definitely don't. So this part here, this all, Sultan Ahmet, the oldest part of Istanbul is on European side, and that over there on the left is Asian side. And this is the only city in the world that spreads between 2 continents. Big city. Istanbul is also the only city of all our tours where we spent 3 nights, simply because we think 2 nights is, 1 rest day is not enough for city that grand. Amazing place. And the tour starts in Bucharest, which is right here. This is the capital of Romania, and travels through Transylvania. You've heard of Transylvania probably before. Yes, I'll ask a question. Oh, Transfagarasan. I'll tell you about Transfagarasan Road, and then down into Bulgaria and Greece. We spend 1 night in Greece, and then 4 nights in Turkey, back through Bulgaria into Romania. This is 16 days altogether. So 1, 2, 3, 4 rest days on this tour. Black Sea, obviously, you can see here. Aegean Sea and Greece down here. And Bosporus Straits here in between. Now, I always show this in the next photo because it was funny how we came up with this tour. I didn't know this road existed. This is Transfagarasan Road in Romania over Carpathian Mountains. Goes up to about 2,000 meters elevation, 6,000 feet. And one day, must have been maybe 2011, 12, Arnie from New Jersey, our dear customer Martin said here earlier, he knows him. He calls me up and says, Matej, when are we gonna do a tour to Romania? And I go, why do you want to go to Romania? Is there anything, interesting? Are there any good roads there? He said, but the best road in the world is in Romania. And I go, what, are you kidding me? I've never heard of anything like that. And he said, go watch Top Gear. Top Gear you're probably familiar with. Okay, the three British guys, they take 3 supercars. This is from a YouTube video. I don't have the video, but they took 3 supercars, Ferrari, Aston Martin, whatever, and they came to this road. This was they traveled from Great Britain, from London, and all the way through Eastern Europe. This was their finish point, basically, Transfagarasan Road, and the local authorities closed the entire pass so that these guys could, with a helicopter, go up and down the pass, drifting around these long sweepers. And then at some point, this Jeremy Clarkson, the curly guy, he's screaming into a helicopter camera, "This is the best road in the world, better than Stelvio." And of course, all the motorcyclists around the world go, "Wow, we have to see this." All right? So that's what Arnie told me, and we created a tour around it. And then I thought maybe we have to do a little bit more than just one pass, and we did. But this is still a phenomenal pass to ride. Okay, super, super nice. But then the tour starts in Bucharest, capital of Romania again. This is People's Palace, which was built by which crazy Romanian tyrant? Ceausescu. Bravo, guys. Very good. The second largest, or at least heaviest building in the world, second only to Pentagon. Bravo. Very good. But you leave Bucharest, where you will see more Bentleys, Ferraris, and Porsches than in Monaco, probably. And I'm not kidding. And then 10 miles out, this is what you see. Okay? And then the entire Romania is like that. Okay? Like 50 years back in time. We love it. Okay? This is one of those wooden horse carriages. Yeah, and that one. That one definitely has a license plate in the back. This is, I don't know where Martin went, but Martin said right here earlier, he came with his bike. Obviously, to answer one of potential questions, most of our customers, they ride our bikes. We'll see later which bikes those are, but some people, like 1 in 50 maybe, will come and do a tour on his own bike. Martin was like that. He stored his bike with Stefan Knopf, which a lot of you will know. He's here at the rally, and rode to Romania with it. This is Bran Castle. What's the person that made this castle famous? Dracula. Yeah, of course. And he never really was here, or at least not the guy, Vlad Tepes, who was the king of Wallachia, which is this region, or Transylvania. He was never here at this castle, but this castle is still super famous for it. Extremely popular with tourists, of course, because there's about 50 stairs to get to it. The real castle where this guy lived is not visited by almost anyone, by no one, because there's about 1,000 stairs to get to it. Okay? Vlad Tepes, who earned the nickname Dracula, what was he doing to his enemies? Do you guys know? Yeah, impaling. Who did he impale most of the time? Turks, exactly. Was very pissed off with Turks. Very, very pissed off. Thousands of people impaled. This became big art almost for them, because you had to live as long as possible, to scare as many people as possible. Pretty bad. This is Transalpina. Transalpina actually, in my opinion, makes a nicer ride. This is a parallel tour, parallel road to Transfagarasan. Less visited. We take that one also. This is also Carpathian Mountains. And Plovdiv. Plovdiv is in Bulgaria, where we have a rest day. A Greek-Roman amphitheater right in the middle of the city. We'll go see that on a rest day, of course. Any clue where that would be? Gallipoli in Turkey. That's next to Dardanelles Straits. First World War, Turks against the Allies, New Zealand, most New Zealanders, Brits, and Australians. Anzac Cove. That's how it's called. And we go see this. Very good, I mean, very interesting, educating place to see. Turks built a really good museum around it also. We'll go see that. This would be what? Troy, yeah. Troy is on the Asian side of the Dardanelles. Sometimes we'll go see that if people are very interested, although nothing much remains, unfortunately, from Troy. Just some scattered rock. But this is in Çanakkale, close by. The movie makers left this. This was used in a movie, this horse, with, who was the main actor? Achilles. Who was Achilles? Brad Pitt. Bro, you guys know everything. Wow. Hagia Sophia, Saint Sophie, or Sophia in Istanbul, the biggest church of its time. The Emperor Justinian, or you probably would name him Justinian, built this. Amazingly big. And then, of course, was later turned into a mosque. This was built as a Roman Catholic church. Later into a museum. But then, again, under the rule of the Turkish president, Erdogan, again turned into a mosque. Just some Turks having fun on our bikes. This is in Grand Bazaar in Istanbul. We will see this. We see this on a rest day, sweets, lunch, when on a guided tour which we take. And then the Black Sea, we spend the night on the Black Sea having good fun. This is a really cool resort. We stay here. And just some riding shots. This is a Danube River. Danube is the longest river in Europe. Goes from Austrian or Swiss Alps all the way through the Balkans into the Black Sea. This is just a few miles before it reaches the Black Sea. So this was Romania to Istanbul, and just one other tour that we'll quickly go through. Has for a long time been one of my favorite tours, Greece. And it's also one of very few tours that only goes around one country, okay? Because you've seen most of our tours go through 3, 4, 5, 6 countries easily, because smaller countries, but Greece itself definitely deserves its own tour. 14 days in Greece. This is Athens. Yes, this is where it starts, right? If you want to see downtown Athens and Acropolis here at the top, you come a day or two early, spend a couple of nights downtown, and then join the tour, which starts just outside of Athens. Athens downtown is absolutely impossible to do for a motorcycle tour start. The traffic there is a little hectic. Yeah. But fun. I mean, we from for around there, we kind of like that.
And there is mass transit from the hotel.
Yeah, yeah. We always, when we start tours, very often we'll do this. See, it says Athens, Glyfada. So the tour really starts outside of Athens. This is half hour on a taxi or a train. And people usually take a couple of extra nights in the hotel, and then they go see the city on their own. That happens before the tour usually. Sometimes after, but before the tour, it's even better to get over jet lag and all. So quickly go through the Greece tour. We will do these Greece tours early in the spring, late May and late September, October. Don't ever ride a motorcycle in Greece in the summer. It is very hot, very hot. Can't do it. So 14 days, most of Greece, especially inland, and also the Peloponnese, is mountains. 80% of Greece is mountains. Most people don't have a clue about that. Most people think Greece equals islands. And there's hundreds of islands all over. Santorini, Mykonos, you know, probably more of them. I mean, the famous one that I do. Very popular with American tourists, but we don't go to any of those. Okay? We go to Delphi, the famous oracle there, ancient site, number 1. Then Pindos Mountains, here we ride that. Meteora, you will see. Remember James Bond when we talk about Meteora, I'll tell you about that. Then Monodendri, and then coming back, we go to Lefkada Island, that's the only island we do, a rest day there. And there's a bridge to the island, okay, so we don't have to take a ferry. And then Peloponnese, you see Olympia, the birthplace of Olympic Games, and then the south of Mani, of Peloponnese, Mani Peninsula, here, Monemvasia. I think my favorite place in Greece, definitely we have a rest day here, and then back through Nafplio. Nafplio was the ex-capital, only for a few years, when Greece was first born as a country in late 1800s, okay? As I'm talking about the new Greece, not the old ancient Greece. Yes?
We just did a self-guided tour, and we rented a bike at UGS in Athens, and Greece had more cars, more mountain roads, more hairpins. It was absolutely amazing. It's fantastic.
I could not disagree, or agree more. Yeah, Greece is amazingly curvy. I mean, the roads there, again, people don't expect that, thinking the islands, but all these mountains, and the amount of traffic, which is almost non-existent, is amazing.
We were amazed. There was no traffic.
No?
I see 2 or 3 cars literally in an afternoon.
Yeah. You have to know, the one reason for very little traffic is that almost half the Greek population lives in Athens, okay? It's amazing. Athens, big place. And then very little population outside. There's like a couple of other big cities. We don't go to Thessaloniki, which is up here, and then Patras, the big port, here. These are the only 2 really big cities in the entire Greece, okay? So, phenomenal place to ride. People always ask me, why do you like Greece so much? And it's very hard for me to answer, because it's the combination of a whole bunch of different things. It's the scenery, it's the food, which to me has no equivalent in Europe. The diversity, the freshness of the food, all food is prepared right there. There's zero food that they prepare, you know, like a day before or anything like that. Even French fries is the best in Greece because it's hand cut. Where on earth do you find hand cut French fries these days? Phenomenal place. And the people, you know, Greek people, although kind of ignorant in a way, and grumpy, often just the best people. Sunio, this is the Poseidon temple, which we go see on the first riding day. Byron inscribed his name here in somewhere on one of these pillars, which was very interesting. That was a long time ago. They don't quite allow that. They don't quite allow that anymore. This is, what is this? Meteora. Yeah, Meteora. I always mention Roger Moore and James Bond, who climbed on one of these 6 monasteries, not on this one, but on Holy Trinity Monastery, and then he beat the crap out of bad guys when he reached the top. But they actually filmed, you know, the movie in Meteora. This was probably 30 or 40 years ago. This is Delphi and the theater. In Delphi, not the closest, not the biggest one. We'll see a much bigger one later. Delphi, really popular spot. And this is this mountain area, Pindos Mountain, which I talked about in Greece. This amazing mountains where there's nobody, very few villages also. But beautiful place to ride. Great weather most of the time when we are there. But then it gets snowed in the summer. Actually, this road actually leads to a ski resort. This is Vikos Gorge, which we go see on the tour. Again, one of the biggest gorges in the world. We don't ride through it. You can't. There's no road. We just go to the viewpoint, and it's super, super beautiful. Lefkada Island, with its super famous white and turquoise beaches. We have a rest day on Lefkada. Some more riding around the island, super nice. And Monuvasia, which I earlier mentioned, with the old Byzantine citadel up on top and the newer city up to the right, which you don't see here. We again spend the rest day here, another phenomenal place to spend the day. And just an example of a hotel in Greece, which we sometimes manage to get into, not always, but super cool place to stay. And more riding. This is the south of Peloponnese peninsula, which is technically now an island because it's, since they built the Corinth Canal. I don't think I have a photo from there, maybe I do. This is a little further north. They basically made the whole Peloponnese into an island by doing that. And this is the biggest Greek theater, which is Epidaurus, yes. Accepts 15,000 people. Phenomenal acoustics, and they still have regular performances here in the summer. And this is Olympia, of course, the race. The race. John, did you race? Yeah. Did you win? Did you win? I won. You won? Did you get that? John wins. Okay, this was Greece, and this is pretty much what I wanted to tell you about these specific tours around the Balkans. I'll just quickly go through, as I said earlier, how we do it. Local dinners. This is again at that Mates place, which I showed earlier, that makes fish. This is one of the most important, or one of the more important aspects of the tour, where we have dinner. Of course, the perfect day finishes with a perfect dinner. So we'll try do it as much as possible. Take you out, local restaurants, great stuff. But this one absolutely surpasses all. And then we'll suggest, obviously, what to have most of the time. Great. Oh, another photo from there. This is another example. This is not from any of the countries on this tour, but this is another good example of where we go eat. It's Diavolezza. It's in Switzerland, in Pontresina. This is an ex-gondola, basically, cable car gondola, and they made a restaurant in it, and they pretty much only serve fondue and raclette. Fondue and raclette, the two famous Swiss/French cheese dishes, right? So that's the local experience. That's what you get for dinner. Great place. Let's see what else. The guides. The guide ultimately makes the tour really good or average, okay? You can have great hotels, you can have great bikes, but if you have a nasty guide, the tour is gonna be no good. And for us, this is maybe the most important thing. Young crowd, super enthusiastic, knowledgeable, they'll tell you about the region's history and stuff, suggest food, great riders, know the roads, know most of the stuff there is to know, and great people to stay around with. So, very accommodating and helpful. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I would like one of the things that
exactly like that. I mean, it's very common that people will want to divert a little bit from the official route of the tour, and as opposed to guide trying to prevent that and saying, no, you better stay with me. You know, this is better and safer. Absolutely not. He'll definitely try help you to reach that place, show it to you in the GPS or in Google Maps, whatever, give you instructions, tell you how much time you'll need for that. Sometimes if more people agree to do it, the whole group will divert through a place like this, okay? Yeah, Milko is one of our guides that really loves Greece, and I don't have a photo of Corinth Canal. I'm not sure why not, but Corinth Canal is a very cool place. to see, right? And there's a bridge over it. There's actually at least 3 bridges over it. And from the old bridge, they organize bungee jumps. And if you call ahead and they reserve your spot, or even if you just show up, a lot of guys, I guess ladies too maybe, on our tours go and jump that Corinth Canal. It's an interesting experience. I haven't tried it yet. Yes, on both sides actually it is. On both sides. Yeah, Corinth Canal is a cool place to see. I always love to tell the legend about the Corinth Canal because Nero was a Roman emperor that came to the area back in the Roman times. And of course, Romans had an idea to build the canal because it saves hundreds and hundreds of miles, you know, to ships traveling around Peloponnese. And then today, Corinth Canal is not used as much as it could be because it's way too narrow for the modern ships. Mostly it's sailboats and some tourist ships that go through. But Nero came in, of course, in Roman times, this would be massively, massively important to build something like that. And he said, we'll build this. And they made a golden shovel for him. So he did the first dig with a golden shovel. And then it says in the report, and then he left the work to 6,000 Jewish slaves and left. I mean, it was just ridiculous. Of course, they started working on it. They never even got close to it because it's an insane project. British, I believe, built the canal. Was it? I don't think, Greeks definitely did not. I think it was the French. Oh, French, maybe French, you're right. In the 1800s sometime, I think, yeah. Very soon, Corinth Canal became of very little importance because the time they needed and a few decades after that, the ships became too big and didn't use it as much. So, guides, we talked about that. Great fun. This is from one of our introductory rides, which we do every year in the spring for the whole team to get back together and break in all the new bikes. This is from our garage in Ljubljana. Okay. Some more fun. Safety, important, obviously. We'll do this every year at the start of the season for a state course. We'll spend most of the day training this. Where luckily not very often we'll have to use this, but still better to know stuff. Ta-da. Accommodation, just a couple of shots of that. Like people ask us, what kind of hotels you stay in? Do you camp? And no, we don't. But I mean, a lot of you guys come here with camping equipment, you know? But on a tour like this, I don't think you would like it quite as much. Now, 4-star hotels, mostly in rare occasions. The best 3 stars or 5 stars. This is a good example in France. We stay in a little castle, unique boutique places. If we're able to find something like that again, we don't use big chain hotels, if possible. Really nice places. I don't think I can quite call them mom and pops. Those are usually too small for the group, but generally super nice places to stay and relax. Because again, at the end of the day, you may get to the hotel a little tired, and it's very cool to stay in a nice place. So these are all just some of the examples from different parts of different tours that we use. And then what do we ride? Most of the bikes that we use are BMWs. I think I mentioned that earlier. The biggest one basically these days, the RT and the New Adventure. And the smallest bike, not a BMW, we use a Yamaha MT-07. It's the lowest bike. But then also the 310, we have one of those, not very commonly used. And then everything in between. By far the most popular bike for our tours, for any of our tours, is a GS. Okay, and I think it's also the most appropriate bike for any of these tours. However, I try to tell that to as many people as possible. Not necessarily you need a GS or an RT or anything that big and heavy. Any of these tours that we do, you can easily do on a 750, which is now called 800 GS, okay? Even couples will very often do that. It will always get you there. There's never a stretch of road where the bike won't make it fast enough or anything like that. So rather than going one step up from what you have at home, better maybe go one step down. The roads where you ride on our tours, but not just on our tours, the entire Europe, same thing. Twisty, super twisty, often narrow, and you just don't need a big bike. It just gets in the way of a good ride very often. I mean, if you're a super rider, yes, then an RT, you can take it anywhere. But a lot of guys are not super riders, and they take too big of a bike, and they kind of regret that soon. There's been many cases where we switched bikes, okay, with a guide or with a spare bike, and they just go with a smaller bike, and they're super happy, super happy. So that's what we ride. Most of the bikes will do only 1 or 2 seasons with us, and we only ride 6 months out of a year, 1 or 2 seasons, and then we sell and buy new. This was last year, a bunch of new GSs. And this is about it. I always ask everybody if anybody knows what this is, and it is food, okay? It's not eels. What's that? Octopus, yeah, octopus. This is how they treat octopus in Greece. This is from Greece. They air or sun dry it like this to become soft rather than put it in the freezer, which is usually the way to make octopus and squid soft and tender. This is how they do it in Greece. Okay, and that's it. This is just another happy group in Plitvice National Park. Maybe you will remember that from the first tour, which I mentioned in Croatia. Okay, that would be it. If any of you guys have any more questions, please go ahead. Yes. So the question is, do we offer self-guided GPS-supported tours? Absolutely yes. This is a very common thing that we do. We call it self-guided, meaning you pick a route. It could be completely customized, or you pick one of our custom routes, and you will get a GPS with all the routes detailedly programmed, hotel bookings, bike obviously, hotels with breakfast, you'll go and have your own dinner. A very informative booklet of 70 to 100 pages, which will give you all the details. You will get the same thing on a guided tour, sorry. But self-guided tour, the good thing is that you can do it on your own dates, whenever you want. You determine the length of the tour. A lot of people do that, especially because of, the GPS helps with that tremendously. Without the GPS, it would be a little tough. But yes, self-guided tour, way to go. Most of our guests do guided tours, okay? But then also, I told you earlier, this is very important. On guided tours, you're not required to ride with a guide. We totally encourage people to ride on their own or with a buddy, okay? Great deal, because then you do your own pace. You stop when you want to stop. You pee when you want to pee, not when the guide tells you to pee, okay? And then you don't stop for lunch if you never eat lunch. Because there's a lot of guys that come, we stop for lunch every day, obviously, because it's a cool thing to do, get to know some more food and relax and rest. And then people go, hey, why are we stopping again? I'm not hungry. You're not, but maybe 10 people are. Go and do your own thing. Not a problem. We'll help you. The maximum we take on a guided tour is 10 bikes. Okay, 10 bikes. And not always will reach that. We will have tours of 6, 7 bikes. If the number of people reaches 16 people before it reaches 10 bikes, say 8 couples book the tour, almost never happens, then we'll stop the bookings at 8 bikes because it's 16 people already. That's one thing, but very importantly, every tour that we put dates out for is a guaranteed departure. As soon as the first person books the tour, even if it's just one rider, the tour is guaranteed to depart. However, not guaranteed with the guide on the bike. Okay, so no tour is ever canceled if there's a single person booked on it. However, 4 bikes are needed to put the van, the support van, on the tour, which happens maybe, I don't think even once a year that we run a tour without the van. Okay, almost never happens. Sometimes if we won't get bookings for a number of months on a tour, maybe once or twice this happens, we'll then just cancel the entire tour before we get the first booking. But as soon as you book, guaranteed departure. Okay, very important. There is one guide on the bike, and there's one guide in the van. Okay, so always 2 guides on a regular, decent size tour. If it's only 1, 2, 3 bikes, then it'll be 1 guide on the bike, and everybody carries their own luggage. The van doesn't come on a tour. But again, this doesn't happen. I much prefer that. Then if you disagree to go on a tour like this, we give you a full refund. Very important. Okay? Where I know a lot of companies will just say 2 months before the tour, we have the right to cancel the tour. We only have 4 bikes. That's below the minimum, which is usually 6. The tour is canceled. We don't care about your flights or any extra activities. And I just don't believe in that. So, yeah. Yes, absolutely. So the van has 2 seats, and we quite often will carry passengers in the van. Usually it's spouses, wives, that'll hop in the van. There are occasions where wives don't ride at all, but they still want to come on a tour. And if they go in the van, they'll have a guide for themselves for the entire tour. A lot of women absolutely love that. Okay, they can chat, blah, 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 the entire tour. Okay? The driver doesn't like that as much, but it works out really, really good. And then sometimes if somebody doesn't feel really good, if somebody gets sick, injured or whatever, the bike is put in the van, and you can spend a couple of days in the van yourself, the rider. And then 3 days later, oh, I'm perfectly cool again. Can I ride? Sure, you can ride. And works really good, yes. Passengers welcomed. Yeah, sometimes people drop bike or have a little crash and they don't feel very confident anymore for a day, or maybe their leg hurts or something like that, and maybe I don't want to ride, for a little while. And then a day or 2 later, they feel confident again and they ride. And they can spend that 1 or 2 days in the van, and the bike goes in the van too. So yeah, that's not uncommon, let's say. Okay, anything else? Nope. Okay, that'll do. Super, thank you.